Hi everyone, good afternoon, good morning, good night, depends where you are in the world. This is Shai Danon in Raising the Frequency, and today I'm with Jay Weidner. Jay Weidner is a filmmaker with extensive experience in Hollywood filmmaking, and he will share with us some really important information about Hollywood and the way they making films in order to I would say, well, you know what? I won't say it. I will let Jay say it. So please share this broadcast. You don't have to, just a suggestion. See you in a bit. Jay, how you doing, mate?
Doing good. How are you?
Excellent. Thank you very much. Yeah, it's just to tell the audience, this is the first time we meet, and obviously we try to have this talk, this interview, a couple of times, and I'm really glad that we managed to do it. I got the link to reach you from a friend who is sometimes looking over the internet and um, finding interesting people so I can speak with. So thank you for this opportunity. Please, if you can just introduce yourself for the audience, so he will know who you are. I mean, as a filmmaker, and why you're not in Hollywood anymore.
Yeah, well, like I tell everybody, my least favorite subject is myself. But so my name is Jay Weidner, and I've been making films for since let's see now, must be like 45 years or so. I finally retired. Um, I was in Hollywood. I made a bunch of films in Hollywood. None of them I'm very proud of. And then I went independent and made a bunch of independent films away from Hollywood. And then eventually I was hired as the content director at Gaia.com, where I ran the content, produced the content, and picked the content for almost 6 years. I started with the company when it started. It started in 2011. I came into contact with the owner at Christmas time of 2011. We went to Hawaii. We planned out the entire network over 2 weeks of really intense 16-hour days. And then in April of 2012, I started working at Gaia and producing stuff, and produced probably 1,200, 1,500 hours of content,
Right.
probably in the top 1 or 2% of people on earth for amount of production that I have been responsible for, and very proud of what I've done.
Excellent. These couple of years that we all are still going through have been a major breakthrough in exposing the hidden layers of reality to masses of people. Really, like I've been in this arena for 12 years, 13 years now, exposing stuff that was hidden for many years. But these last 2 years was really like the pinnacle of
I
exposure, and
agree.
I think there's more yet to come. Um, can you take us from your experience, your expertise, can you take us into Hollywood and share with us how Hollywood is hiding secrets in plain sight, and how Hollywood is maybe subjecting our minds and our children's minds, which I think is more important, to some material that better if we won't be exposed to.
Well, first off, you have to understand, and I didn't understand this when I first went to Hollywood and started writing screenplays and things, but Hollywood is a cult. And The entertainment industry is a cult, and it's a part of a larger cult. And this cult runs the world, you might say. And it's a very unusual cult. It's taken me years to figure out what makes the cult tick and why it does what it does. And as far as Hollywood, there's really two Hollywoods. There's a Hollywood of pre, say, 2010 and before, and then there's the Hollywood from 2010 onwards, and they're really two different Hollywoods. The Hollywood before 2000, in fact, you can actually take. I'm going to actually do a show on my reality check program on YouTube about this. But Avatar 2 is about to come out in December of this year. And I've been pondering, Avatar in 2009 and now Avatar in 2022, and thinking about how the world has changed so drastically since Avatar 1 came out.
Yeah.
And that actually Avatar 1 couldn't even get made today because it's about a white guy as a hero who betrays his own people to defend these indigenous people. And so it couldn't even get made today. It'd be politically incorrect. So it's going to be interesting to watch how James Cameron, navigates through the current waters here with his next movie. And will Avatar 2 will anyone even go see it? I mean, at this stage, I don't even go see movies anymore. I saw Nightmare Alley, which I really liked. I was really surprised by it. It was like a really true old Hollywood morality play, and it was done very well. Acting and everything about it was just incredible. But outside of that, I have got to say, I haven't seen many movies that I've really liked. However, you can actually go back and look at movies that are from 2005 and 6, which I'm now thinking 2005 and 2004 to 2006 were really the last really good movies were getting made. And then it became all propaganda after that. And I don't know who to blame. I don't know, the old blood left Hollywood and the new blood came in. I know that did happen at that time. And the new generation isn't really interested in telling stories. They're more interested in propaganda. And so now when I'm watching a movie, I spend the first 15 minutes trying to figure out what the propaganda angle of the movie is. Right? Which is why I like Nightmare Alley, because it didn't have any propaganda in it. So I was like, oh, thank God there's a movie that doesn't have any propaganda trying to sell me some lifestyle I'm not interested in. But, before 2010, Hollywood used more discreet methods of propaganda that came under the radar, and you didn't quite detect it maybe until later. But since 2010, it's just beating you with a hammer. If you're a hammer, everything's a nail. And Hollywood is a hammer. And it's just hammering everything to the point where we've got such a glut of content going now that nothing is important. That's what's kind of amazing. We had no streaming network in 2009 when Avatar came out. Now, we have hundreds of streaming networks. Everybody's producing content. And the level of the content is just dropping rapidly. There is nothing really very interesting going on. And this is actually the most important part. This is the end of Hollywood. And why is it the end of Hollywood? Well, it's the end of Hollywood because Hollywood is a really unusual business. Hollywood is the only business that loses money every year and continues. Really? And everybody's like scratching their head. How can you lose money every year and continue as a business, as a viable business? And the way that they did that was that before Harvey Weinstein and that whole thing happened, what you would do in Hollywood was, if you were a producer, and I'm giving some secrets away here, but this is the truth of the matter. I know people are going to get irritated in Hollywood that I'm revealing this, but so you're a producer, you got a hot screenplay, and maybe you've got Brad Pitt or somebody that says, yeah, you get the money, I'll be in this movie. So now that's a big thing. You got like 70% of what you're doing, done as a producer. So now you have to raise the money. And so what you do is that you, in the old days, not anymore, because after Me Too, this is all over. But in the old days, just like 8 or 9 years ago, maybe even less, 7 years ago, you would you would go to a town like, say, Akron, Ohio, and you would find the guy that owns the furniture stores, the local entrepreneur who started his business in his 20s and now he's in his 60s and he owns 8 or 9 big, huge stores of something. It doesn't have to be furniture, it could be anything. But he's rich and he's wealthy and he's aging. And he and his wife probably aren't really getting along much anymore. And you go and you put your arm around the guy, you take him out to dinner and say, hey, I've got, this actress who's going to be in the movie. You like her? Oh, yeah, she's cute, isn't she? Would you like to meet her? And of course, guys, yeah, sure. And he said, well, listen, man, I'm making a movie with her. And I'm looking for 20 million. And I'm looking for somebody who can invest in the movie. And you can be on the set every day and hang out with Brad Pitt and whoever the actress is. I don't want to name them anymore. I don't want to get sued. And, who knows what can happen, right? And the guy's like, yeah, I got to have my name in a movie with Brad Pitt in it and produced by executive producer, And so then the guy gives the money over and he comes to the set and there's kind of this like agreed upon, I don't know, set of rules in Hollywood where that guy gets a lot of attention, if you know what I mean. So, so that was Hollywood. That's what kept Hollywood going, was this constant bringing in new money, and then using that money to make a film. But those days are over. Now, Netflix has enough money to keep productions going, and they're doing that, and they're doing a very good job. But I'm going to tell you, that's not going to last. Netflix is not going to last. This model cannot last. You cannot keep spending hundreds of millions of dollars every year making movies when nobody can watch them anymore because there's such a glut. So Hollywood is coming to an end, and it's going to come to an end. There's this thing in historians talk about. It's called the sunset effect, where the sun is biggest right before it sets, right? And that's what this is. This is the sunset effect of Hollywood. So the biggest glut of, and as a content maker, I've got to tell you, this is our time. I mean, before streaming, us writers and content makers, we were like the dogs of Hollywood. You get kicked around and who was it? It was Meyer of Metro Goldwyn Mayer. He said, never let the screenwriters find out how powerful they are. So we got to keep them kicked down, because if they ever find out that they're the ones actually in control of everything, then we'll be out of business. And that's what's going on, is the writers are now realizing that they can call the shots now in this world. And so they are. I'm out of that world now, thank God. And I want nothing to do with it. I don't want to ever make a film again, because it doesn't interest me at all. But
no, but you are making films, but they're just not for Hollywood. Maybe they are about Hollywood.
That's right. Yeah, outside of Hollywood. But the distributors are the wall that guards anything from getting through that's unusual or different or says something different. And that's still there. Those distributors are still the wall, the censor wall, stopping anything from getting out. And we had a brief period where DVDs were out and you could actually produce a DVD, sell it, and make money. But those days are also gone. And so right now, we're in this really unusual period where everything's falling apart. And that's why I find Avatar 2 so interesting, because I'm wondering how they're going to pull this off. I mean, even Christopher Nolan's last film, Tenet, didn't really do very well. And so nothing's really doing, every movie he ever made makes millions, but Tenet didn't. And because of the times that we're in, but also because these large budget, there's a great interview out there right now with David Mamet. I don't know if you know who he is, the screenwriter.
Yeah, David Mamet. Yeah, sure.
He's just like genius.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway, he's got Robert Rubin, I think is his name. He interviews him. It's on YouTube, and he's like my age, and he talks about Hollywood, the old Hollywood. He talks about why it's dead, And it's a really, really good interview. He is like one of the most brilliant screenwriters ever.
Yeah.
He wrote Unforgiven, Clint Eastwood's greatest film, and just one of my favorite writers. And he enunciates and articulates what's going on here. And he says, it's ridiculous. You have a comedy where two people are on screen making jokes with each other, and the movie cost $200 million. It's like, what is going on here, right? A movie that would have cost $2 million is now $200 million. And this is out of whack. It cannot recover. We're going to go back to films made by independent filmmakers like me, and they're going to have problems with distribution. If there's a rich person out there who loves movies, why don't you start a streaming service for independent filmmakers and just accept everything that comes in and let the audience determine what would be, the hits and what aren't the hits, because, filmmakers are being strangled right now by all of this. And so if we join the system and we go to Amazon or we go to Netflix and we give into the system, then we can get work. But if you want to do independent work that talks about subjects that maybe Hollywood doesn't necessarily want to talk about, well, you're up shit creek without a paddle, and there's nothing you can do. So I love films, and I love old Hollywood, and I love the whole idea of the lights on the screen and projected in the dark room and the music and really good acting and stories. And I really love really good cinematography. And I love when it all comes together and makes something that, is wonderful. But we got to get the propaganda out of it. That's the problem here. We got to get back to just telling stories, and it's Hollywood's fault. They've always been a little bit propaganda, and as they went forward here and further and further, they got worse and worse into it. And even my favorite filmmaker, Stanley Kubrick, he did propaganda too. I'm not going to deny it. And so so we're at a stage where we're at a very interesting stage, and I'm going to go back to Avatar 2. I'm going to watch that really close and see how Cameron, who it really is probably the greatest filmmaker living today, how he pulls off this thing, because Avatar 1 actually hasn't aged very well. That's my movie, The Last Avatar, which has nothing to do with Avatar. And but Avatar itself has not aged very well. And so it's going to be interesting to see, what happens here with that movie. And it's also going to be interesting to see what all these new films that are coming out are going to be. But I will say this. I've noticed that the modern films where they have turgid screenplays and stuff, but they are looking into different kinds of ideas that were not really looked into before. So we are getting films that are looking into advanced spiritual concepts, you might say, which is interesting. And I feel sorry for young filmmakers, but I will tell you this. If you're a guy or a girl or woman or man and you're in your early 20s or mid 20s and you want to be a filmmaker, I guarantee it. Yes, you're going to have to go get a job to support yourself. But if you spend your weekends and your nights working on your films and you just keep doing it, don't stop doing it, you will succeed. It may take you 10 years. It may take you 15 years, but you will succeed if you keep going, because at a certain point, the guys with the money are going to notice that you keep doing it no matter what. And that is, Woody Allen said 90% of success is just showing up. That's what you're doing. You're showing up. You're making a movie. You're putting it out every year, another film. And whether it makes money or not, you're continuously doing it. And eventually the guys with the bucks are going to notice you and go, call that guy in here. He at least does it. And or she. And so do that. And you will succeed. I guarantee it. I'm proof of that. I just kept going and going and going. And, cost me a marriage, and it cost me my jobs, and it cost me friends, but I am proof that you will succeed no matter what, and I never went to film school. They didn't have, the only film schools that were available when I was young was USC and NYU. That was it. Only two colleges that had actual active film programs. Later, UCLA added in, and then of course later everybody started adding in film studies, but I had no place to go. So basically I just went to movies and hung out at the movie theater in San Francisco for 6-7 hours a day. I'd watch films, and
Nice.
I'd watch every film, and I would write down things that I really liked about each film, and then I would take that and try to incorporate that into what I was doing. And I still think that's the best way. To me, if you're telling me that you're going to spend $200,000 going to film school and you want advice from me, I'm going to tell you to take that $200,000 and go make some films.
Make some films. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and you'll learn more making the film than you'll ever learn in film school. I mean, it's school of hard knocks, but I mean, if you and you're not. And by the way, if you're going to be a filmmaker, you should know that during shooting, if you're the guy that's in charge, you're probably not going to sleep.
Of course. That's true for any, I think, for any business owner, for any new invention or innovation that is coming out. You're not going to sleep. You want to make sure it's going on track.
That's right.
Forget about sleep. Jay, right. I want to take you out. Look, my audience is quite involved, is quite awake and aware. I would like to give the audience the juicy bits. All right. Now, I know you've done some films, like one among many is this one, Room 237, which you can tell us about it quickly. But I want also for the audience to know what you're really doing. And this is exposing Hollywood hidden messages in movies, or the propaganda, hidden propaganda inside movies. I think this is, let's just dive in, because this is more interesting than to talk about Hollywood as an industry. I'm like, I don't care about them. I care about what they are doing to our children's brain, and we can speak even about Walt Disney and Disney World, or Walt Disney. Last week, what happened there, and the LGBTB or whatever movement, and all this transgender stuff going on, and parents getting angry because of it, and rightly so. So this is just one example, but this has been going on for many, many years and decades. So I would like your take on that, because this is more important. Again, remember, the audience is aware, awake. All right, they're with me for many years now. They know what you're talking about. So don't hesitate. Just jump in, dive in. You can start with this movie if you like, but I want you to give us like a broad spectrum, not just about this movie, how you made it, what you wanted to do. Less important for me, for the audience, more important is to speak about what they're trying to do and how they try to spoil with the propaganda our brains.
Yeah, so Room 237, I was in. It's Rodney Asher actually made the film, and he was very, very respectful towards me, and I will always appreciate Rodney Asher's respect towards my opinions, and he treated me with great respect in Room 237. And so Room 237 is really an examination of Stanley Kubrick's The Shining. And it's got, I think, 6 or 7 different people's opinions about The Shining and what it's actually saying. And I personally think that every one of the people that are in Room 237 talking about The Shining are right. I think that all of them are right. I think that Kubrick intended for all of the things that are being said about The Shining to be in there. He was talking about the Holocaust. He was talking about the destruction of the American Indians by the Europeans. He was talking about the Overlook Hotel as the United States. He was talking about the Cold War. In other words, the winter that's in The Shining is actually about the Cold War, about the bears, the Russian bears, which are all over The Shining, the hotel. And so what happened is that in the early 1970s, a series of books came out called Subliminal Messages, Subliminal Advertising by I can't remember the guy's name now, but they were fascinating books about how advertisers use mostly sexual images uh, painted into like the ice cubes in a glass of whiskey, or the smoke coming from a cigarette would be the shape of a naked woman, but you had to see it. And so I read those books in early 70s, and I went to a person who was running an advertising agency in New York, and I said, "Is this real? I mean, this guy's got the pictures, but I mean, is it real? Are you guys really doing this?" And he looked at me and said, "Yep, we're doing it." So when I'd gotten word that Kubrick was really into these books, that he'd read them and was fascinated by those subjects just as I was. So in 1980, when I went to go see The Shining, I was just a young filmmaker at the time, barely getting my head wet, and I didn't like it. I read the book, and I didn't like the film. In fact, I was shocked because I loved Kubrick's films, and I went home and I felt like I had to take a shower. I just felt dirty. I couldn't figure out why, and so I didn't watch the film for years because I didn't like it. I don't know why I didn't like it. I know that he dumped a lot of stuff that was in the Stephen King novel and just threw it out and put a whole bunch of other stuff in, which I couldn't figure out why he did that. I know Stephen King was really upset about that movie, and they literally paid him, Warner Brothers paid Stephen King, this is secret, $1 million to shut up about The Shining. Wow. No kidding. Don't you love to get paid $1 million to shut up about something? So they paid.
Just to say, yes, this is the movie with Jack Nicholson. For those who are asking, The Shining is the movie with Jack Nicholson. Yes.
Yes. Probably the only movie where the two leads' names were their actual names. So Danny, the little kid in The Shining, is actually played by an actor named Danny, and Jack is Jack Nicholson, and it's like really strange. There's a whole bunch of strange stuff about The Shining, by the way, that isn't even in Room 237 that I've discovered probably since that movie was made. But anyway, so then I got the Blu-ray and I watched The Shining. This is years ago now, probably 2009 or 10, something like that. And I was blown away, completely blown away. And I was not blown away because of the things that I'm famous for discussing in The Shining, which is, my opinion, was Stanley telling us that he had been involved in the Apollo moon landing fakery and was confessing to it in The Shining, which I know is the truth. And by the way, Stephen King has told a mutual friend of mine that he agrees with me, that that's what was going on in The Shining, that was Kubrick's confession. But what I noticed, even more importantly, and what you're referring to, was that Kubrick was using those same subliminal messages to put all sorts of weird stuff in The Shining that I'd never seen on the first viewing, but that with increased sophistication of knowledge and viewing later, 20 years later, when I watched it, right, or actually 30 years later, when I watched it, I saw it, and I saw what he was doing. And I saw that he was moving furniture around and changing the shadows in the background from shot to shot, not from scene to scene, but a chair would be behind Jack Nicholson, and then it would cut to Wendy, and then cut back to Jack, and the chair's gone. And you're like, what's going on? So I actually got Leon, his assistant. I talked to Kubrick's assistant, Leon, I can't remember his name, but I said to him, I said, why was Kubrick is an expert at continuity? That's like, he's the genius of continuity. Why is he making all these continuity errors? And he said, he's not making any continuity errors. And I go, well, yeah, what are you talking about? I mean, I've got a list of like 60 continuity errors in The Shining. And he says, Stanley just made mistakes. And I'm like, no. Stanley doesn't do that. I'm sorry. Everything is so well planned that there's nobody that plans more than Kubrick. So what he did was he wanted to make a horror film that he liked horror films. I like horror films too. And but it has to be a really good horror film. 99% of horror films are terrible, but that 1% of horror films are really good. And that's what appealed to Kubrick. He really liked the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the first one, which is truly one of the scariest movies ever made. And so what he did was he wanted you to be so creeped out by the movie that and not know why you were creeped out. In other words, it really isn't a very scary movie. The scariest scene is when Shelley Duvall discovers the book that Jack Nicholson is writing has the same sentence written over and over and over and over, right? That's not in the book, by the way. That's solely in the movie, and that is the scariest scene in the whole movie, because you're like, what? The guy is spending all day writing the same sentence over and over. That is terrifying, right? And but the rest of the movie isn't that terrifying. So then you're wondering why you got the creeps. And I know I did get the creeps. And it's because he's putting in so many weird subliminal things in the movie that you're really not aware of when you're watching. Just little things. Like he has, in one scene, there's a teddy bear up against the wall and there's a fire truck in front of it. And the fire truck has its ladder up. And you look at it and you're like, the teddy bear has a heart on. Okay. When Jack Nicholson and the hotel manager first shake hands, the hotel manager is, "It's nice to meet you." And they shake hands. As soon as they shake hands, you can see that the tray that's on the table is giving the hotel manager a hard on. And everybody's like, why is Kubrick taking 50 takes of every scene? What's going on here? This is what he's doing. The actors don't even know what he's doing. He's lining up things on the set so that all these things are like giving you all these subliminal sexual messages. And that's why when I saw The Shining, I felt like I had to take a shower when I got done, because I didn't know why. I was like, this is weird. I don't understand exactly why. Go ahead.
Yeah, question. Is it, what's the best way to describe it? Is it Hollywood as a team, to say, generally speaking, is putting subliminal messages in films, or is it just Kubrick or other specific filmmakers?
No, they're all doing it. And
all doing it. All right.
Yeah.
I want, I want this. I want to look, this again, these couple of 2 years, we've been exposing so many hidden secrets, and the Hollywood agenda, it's enough even if I just mention Project Mockingbird by the CIA to infiltrate the media, Hollywood, etc. This is how they work, and to put these messages, hidden messages, subliminal messages, and it's true that a lot of them are to do with sex, yes, but not just. This, I would like to peel the layers of this onion to expose this agenda, so we can speak about a specific film, yes, but only if we can project from this film to project on all other films. And I think this is what's important here as an agenda, to expose it.
So, all right, is this going up on YouTube or anything? The show?
YouTube. I was banned on YouTube, so I had like a really, yeah, sure,
All
it
right.
will go up. It's on Facebook now. I have my own platform, Live 528, which is a video platform like YouTube, just much better, and it goes live on Telegram as well. So yes, absolutely.
All right. So let me give you a really good example of the way that Hollywood skillfully bends reality. All right. And this is going to be a shock to your audience, but at this stage of the game, I really don't care anymore. And what I'm about to tell you has gotten me into a lot of trouble. Not with everybody. Everybody hates what I'm about to tell you. Okay. So as a filmmaker, the Zapruder film is a very famous film of the assassination of John F. Kennedy, shot by Abraham Zapruder on November 22nd, 1963, 8mm film. He's filming Kennedy as he's coming through the town square in Dallas, and then you see the headshot, and then the car speeds away. It's 28 seconds long. One of the most important 28 seconds ever made. So I've seen it years ago. And oh, that's shocking. And yes, the president got his head blown off on film, and it's very shocking. But then I haven't seen it in like 20 years. And about 10 years ago, I a really good version of it, because most of the versions are murky and low res and you can't really see what's going on. But I found a guy who was a really good advanced technician who gave me a really good version of it. Right. And so he sent it to me on a DVD and I watched it. And when I watched it, I was completely shocked by what I saw, because I didn't see anything that anyone was telling me. Like, the government was telling me that Oswald was up in the 6-story building behind Kennedy and that he aced, 2 shots. He aced him, one in the neck and then another in the head. Right. Which is pretty good shooting, by the way. As a guy who knows how to shoot, that's pretty damn good shooting. And I've always was baffled by it, by his marksmanship. And so I watched it. And what I saw was not what I've been told by the conspiracy people, who say that he was shot in the neck here and then shot in the head from the front by a guy on the grassy knoll, or the government people telling me about Oswald in the book depository. What I saw in the Zapruder film, nobody ever has spoken about. What I saw was, first off, the limousine goes behind the freeway sign, and there's a splice. It's very important. There's a splice there. Okay. So conveniently, as the car goes behind the freeway sign, there's a splice. So a splice can mean anything, right? I mean, anything could happen in between the two frames. So as the car comes out, I see Kennedy, and he reaches into his coat with his right hand, and he goes like this, and he places something on his right cheek. And then he just sits there, and for like 4 or 5 seconds, I see this thing protruding on his cheek. And then Jackie comes over and she goes like this. And then the thing goes boom. And Kennedy falls below the seat, and that's it. And so I'm going, wait a minute here. There's this thing in Hollywood, and it's called a squib. What a squib is it's a metal plate. It's a little device, has a metal plate on it. Then it has some gunpowder and a little ignition device. And then on top of the gunpowder is some blood, a fake blood. Put styrofoam to make it look like, bone flashlight and stuff. Yeah. And then they stick it on you, right? And then a person comes by. In the old days, you had to pull the string. Nowadays, they have a remote. So, you hit it and then boom, it looks like you got shot, right? When I'm watching this, I'm aghast, because first off, there's no neck wound at all. Because if there was a neck wound, there'd be blood pouring out everywhere. Okay, because the neck is, all the arteries go through the neck. Okay, so that's where when you're hunting an animal, you want to hit it in the neck, because that means you're going to get it killed right away. You don't have to chase it down. It's just going to bleed out in like 2 minutes, right? So he did not get hit in the neck. There's no blood. What he does is he reaches into his coat. He puts a squib on his cheek, and then Jackie comes over and pulls the squib, blows it off. Nobody got killed. Nobody got shot. Okay, so what does all this mean? Well, then you go up to 1991 and Oliver Stone's movie, JFK. Okay. An excellent movie, by the way. Just really well done movie. Can't tell you how much. Oliver Stone's just a brilliant technician, period. I don't care what anybody says. But watching the film with what I know now, right? Kevin Costner is telling us how to view the Zapruder film so you don't see what I just said.
Right.
That's what that whole movie is about. It's not about anything else. Oliver Stone knows that that's a squib. Platoon, his movie Platoon, which was made like in 1986, 4 or 5 years before JFK, has like hundreds of squibs in it. Okay, so Oliver Stone is the squib.
He knows his squibs.
They know their squibs. They know their squibs. Yeah. So what happened is that the reason that they hid the Zapruder film was not because they didn't want you to see that there was a conspiracy of getting hit in the front instead of the back. The reason they hid the Zapruder film was to stop anyone from seeing that Kennedy was placing a squib on his cheek and faking his own death for whatever reasons. I don't even know why. I know that the mob had a hit on him. So he may have tried to get ahead of the hit by doing it himself. He didn't want to be president anymore. I know that. He had Addison's disease, which is the hardening of the spine. And he was in a lot of pain. And I know he didn't want to be president. He hated it. He hated being president. And so I don't know why he faked his death, but he clearly faked his death. And Oliver Stone made JFK to make sure that no one ever saw what really happened in that film. And Hollywood is always doing this. They're always making films that take something historically and make it like they give it an accuracy that isn't there. So like they'll take a subject and they'll make them film about the subject, and then when you go investigate the subject, you find out the film really had nothing to do with the subject, but it was propagandizing you to think about that subject in a certain way. So we have war films and all sorts of films to make it seem as if we're always the good guys. And
Jackie, I mean, with Kennedy, Jackie was on it, obviously. I mean, they were all part of this pretending something happened when actually something else happened, and it's just a mock-up. I don't know, a fakery.
It's very bizarre because you can actually see the metal plate roll up his cheek after the explosion. So there's this metal, and it rolls up like an old style of window shade, right? It rolls up and it flies off. On the version I have, which is a very good version, you can actually see it fly off, and then Jackie goes and retrieves it. She doesn't care about.
Yeah, she runs. She runs on the car, like
she goes and the Secret Service guy grabs it and gives it to her. You can see. He gives it to her, and as soon as she has it and she knows it's secure, she doesn't give a crap about Jack. Jack is falling down into the seat, and he's been shot in the head. My goodness! And by the way, if bullets are flying all around you and you're in an open car, you're not getting out of the car. You're going down into the seat.
Yeah, exactly. That's the first thing. Yes.
Yeah. So everything she does is wrong. You would not do that if bullets are flying everywhere. But what's really interesting is if you freeze the frame where the head wound supposedly goes off, every single person in that car, the driver, the guy next to the driver, John Connolly, the governor of Texas, and his wife, who are in the next seat, and Jackie, all 5 people are staring straight at JFK at the headshot. The driver's got his head around. Everybody's looking at you freeze the framing like they knew it was going to happen or something, right? And this explains a lot of anomalies. By the way, what people don't understand is that Oswald killed another person that day. You know that? He killed a guy named J.D. Tippit. He was a Dallas policeman. Okay. Yeah. J.D. Tippett's nickname on the Dallas police force was JFK. You know why? Because he was a dead ringer for John F. Kennedy. A dead ringer. He looked just like him.
Wow.
The coincidence of 2 guys that look exactly alike getting shot by the same guy in the same town on the same day. Come on. And I believe that J.D. Tippett's the guy on the autopsy. But I'm just giving you an example of how Hollywood can rotate history and change things around so that we now see history through Hollywood's eyes instead of how history is actually unfolding.
This is excellent example, Jay. Thank you very much for that. I really appreciate it. And I'm kind of curious now to go and watch the original and Oliver Stone's version and just to compare.
Okay, let me just clear one thing up. If you really want to see a good version of the Zapruder film, the guy's name is M.K. Davis. He has a YouTube channel, and he's an expert at film. And what he did is he took the Zapruder film. You know how they take those old World War I films and they colorize them and they straighten them all out? He did that with the Zapruder film, and you can see it on YouTube, and you can't miss it. Once you see it, it's like you can't unsee it. I actually got on a national radio show about 5 years ago, and the guy was challenging me on this. And I said, well, load up your YouTube, load up the Zapruder film. And I narrated it and by the time I got it, he's, oh my God, you're right. That's exactly what's going on here.
You
So
said,
everybody
sorry,
can see it once you see
M.K.
it. Just like the
Davis,
moon
right?
landing.
M.K. Davis?
M.K. Davis, Davis, M.K. Davis, a very, very important film that he did, the Zapruder film. It's right
All
there
right,
on
I'll have
YouTube.
a look later. I just opened it, so I'll have a look later. But you see, we already know that something else is happening. Let's
Yep.
talk about the JFK. So we know, okay, there's something happening that seems like it happens, but actually something else happened. We can also speak about the Twin Towers in that regard. I mean, there's so many examples there.
Yep.
I want, if you can,
Well,
tell us.
what's the name of the movie? The one of the kid who time travels with the car. What's the name of that movie? 1980s.
With Michael J. Fox? No,
Yeah,
yeah.
Michael. What's it called?
Back to the Future. Back to the Future.
Okay, so if you watch Back to the Future, okay, no kidding, you watch Back to the Future, and the DoubleTree Motel is destroyed by terrorists, Middle Eastern terrorists, and then it's replaced by the single hotel, just like the Twin Towers are destroyed.
Twin Towers, yeah.
And the whole movie is about a guy who knows that there's a terrorist act coming in the future.
Yeah,
and he's trying to warn everybody about it, but no one will listen to him. And you tell me how in the world someone in 1986 could get the facts of 2001 so correct.
So this it brings me to the next question. If you can elaborate from your knowledge about Mockingbird, I mean, how the CIA and the USA government or the cartels behind it, whatever, it doesn't matter now, but how they made Hollywood in order to wash the brains of the American people and the whole world, obviously.
Yeah, no, they did. It's good you brought up the CIA because, I mean, honestly, that's who's behind the propaganda.
Sure.
And, well, I'm told that they come into that every script has to be approved by some board inside the CIA, and you can't get, once you get past it, if you put stuff in your movie that isn't in the script, they'll cut it out of your movie. A lot of filmmakers try to do that. They'll have one script and then shoot another script to get around the CIA censors. But that used to work. But in fact, Oliver Stone was actually one of the ones that would really abuse that one. I mean, he would write a script that was very innocuous and then go shoot a movie that was like, telling you all the secrets of the mob and everything, and then the CIA said, no, we can't have Oliver Stone doing that anymore. So he kind of lost his career. Now he's just making interesting documentaries. But they foretell events. This cult, and that's what you really have to think of it as. It's a cult. This cult has rules, okay, like every cult. And one of the main rules of this cult is they have to tell you, the public, exactly what they're doing before they do it. So that way they are karmically released from it. Because they said, hey, you didn't pay attention to what we were telling you. That's your problem, not mine.
Exactly.
And a lot of ways that there's a lot of truth in that. And what's going on is now today, probably shows like this, people are becoming what I call visually literate. And as they become visually literate, like they see, like, I'm visually literate. Okay, I saw the Zapruder film as it really is, not as they told me it was.
Sure.
Okay, and so now people are now looking at films and advertising and novels and all the other stuff, and they're saying, they're planning something here, right? And they're getting out ahead of it, and that's a big change, because that's 10 years ago that wasn't happening, but now you get on internet groups and they're, did you see this movie? That means that this is going to happen, or you saw this and that means that they're going to do this, and they are. I mean, that's what's going on, and so the cult is in a bad place right now. Their propaganda devices are failing. They're being exposed at every level. What just happened at Disney is mind-blowing, absolutely mind-blowing.
This
And
is
here's the thing.
just the tip of the iceberg, as you probably know. And I just, again, for the audience, because you are like, although it's been some few good years since you're not in Hollywood, the phenomena that we know as, as pedophilia and these sort of stories, how much truth in it?
Oh, you would not.
Right.
One day before I die, I am going to do a video where I'm going to tell everybody what goes on in Hollywood. I can't do it here now because it'll cost me my life.
Sure.
But
No. I agree. I
yeah,
totally understand. Please make this film in advance. Keep it, put it in a safe.
yeah.
Like Bill Cooper, William Milton Cooper. I don't know if you know him. All right.
I
Sorry.
was the last person. I was the last person to talk to Bill Cooper.
No way, man.
Yep. I talked to him about 25 minutes before he died.
He's my hero.
Yep. He was reading my first book on his radio show. I think he was up to like chapter 10. And somebody told me, hey, Bill Cooper's reading your book, right? And I went, really? And so I listened to it. And then I had his number and I called him up and I said, thanks, man, for helping me out in my book. And he said, and he started grumbling. He said, there's a bunch of Latinos playing rap music really loud behind my house. And I'm like, yeah, well, dude, be careful there. And it was cops. It was two Latino cops that were dressed up as gang members.
Yeah.
And they had their guns on him. And he came out of the house with his gun, of course.
Yeah.
Bill, ever bring a gun out? He brought his gun out and they killed him dead right then and there. And that was just a few weeks after 9/11.
Yeah, I know. I mean, he was a real hero because he laid it out there for many years, out of personal experience in the Navy, personal research, wherever, books, and everything, and the Mystery Babylon series he has done, and the newspaper and the radio station. I mean, I have his book here, and what he has done. What I would just started to say, that when you make this film about pedo Hollywood, make sure you make it in advance and you spread it into few locations, like he did with his book, like 2,000 copies, I think he sent to so many people just as a security. Not that it helped him eventually, but still, his name is with us and we remember him and we know he was a hero, and that's quite a lot nowadays. So
he was the first guy that told me that he thought Kubrick did the moon landings and that he used 2001: A Space Odyssey as his R&D. It wasn't me that came up with that. That was Bill Cooper.
Wow.
I mean,
but you know what's funny?
I proved how that Kubrick did it with front screen projection, and Bill didn't understand movies or anything. So, but his brain was in the right place, and he knew it. And so that I said when he told me that, I went, could that be true? And then I started looking, and sure as hell, it was true. And there's a lot of fake going on here.
But Cooper, he was like, he said that the driver of Kennedy shot him.
Yeah, that's because he had a bad version of the film.
It's what I thought.
The driver did turn around and he did have his hand on the seat.
Yeah.
So,
but you couldn't see a gun really because of the quality.
It was just that they were putting out really bad quality editions of the Zapruder film on purpose so that everyone would make their own interpretations. But here's the thing about the Zapruder film that no one asks. All right. It's 12:30 lunch hour on a very nice sunny day in Dallas, in downtown, and there are no more than 100 people there. I've counted. There's no more than 100 people. If there's 100, I'd be surprised. Secondly, the way they line everybody up is the way that Hollywood would line people up to make a crowd look bigger. You put them shoulder to shoulder, make 100 people look like 1,000 people. But here's the really important thing. You've got a CBS, an ABC, and an NBC affiliate in Dallas at the time, all with 16 millimeter Bolex cameras and all the equipment, and not one of them sends a cameraman down to film the rock star president and his rock star wife in an open air parade through Come on.
Come on.
You would do it just to get stock footage. You would have somebody up on the triple underpass bridge. If
Absolutely.
I was the cameraman, I'd be up there on the triple under with looking down. I'd have a zoom and I have a great angle of Kennedy waving at the crowd. And now my affiliate network could use that film forever. And ever they're talking about Kennedy, they could show that film. It would be their property. It'd be very valuable.
Very valuable.
But here's the thing. There were cameramen there. They just weren't filming Kennedy. They were filming the crowd in distress after the assassination. They were coming out and interviewing. Oh, what did you see? And oh, his head got blown off. Oh, I'm like, wait a minute. Why weren't you pointing your camera at Kennedy when he went by?
And was it a real crowd? Because even in 9/11, the way I see it, they put people on the ground as crowd. I mean, not to say there was no crowd there was, but the interviews were of specific people from the crowd.
Yeah.
So, and then the media was full with it. I mean, we
guy
saw
with the baseball hat. Remember the guy with the baseball hat?
Yeah.
The plane went into the building, and then all the fuel exploded, and it melted the bullet and the whole building. I'm like, wait a minute, dude. How could you possibly know that?
It doesn't add up. Also, I mean,
I'm not even sure. By the way, I know this is going to sound shocking. I'm not even sure there were planes.
I know. The CGI story. I know this version. I'm with you on that. And I see a really interesting film. Let me see where it is. I should send it to you because it's about the actual weapon that was used for 9/11 and the fact that it's also a source of free energy, this weapon. All right. It's a long film. It's like 2.5 hours movie. I will look it up and I'll send it over because I think you'll find it interesting. It's another layer of the same story. All right. I mean, we know the planes and then we think, all right, maybe micro nukes. And then we think, okay, maybe CGI, no planes at all. But now there's another version, which you may find interesting. I started watching it. I haven't finished, so I can't. There it is.
Yes, is this the energy weapon?
It came out on the 10th of April, 2 days ago. All right.
Oh, really?
And this is Dr. Judy Wood.
Yeah.
Hang on, I'll open it. I just open it so you can see what
she's right. I know Dr. Wood, and she's right. The building is literally melted. If you watch, you'll see they're melting them from the top down. You can just turning them into dust, and it's an energy weapon. In fact, one of the firemen was on like the 15th floor, and he said he could see the blue sky. He was inside the building. Oh yeah.
This is it. That's the film. It's 2.5 hours.
I'm gonna definitely watch it.
Okay, I'm going to send you the link.
Which is the primary way.
You see,
there she is.
It's on Breakthrough Energy Movement Conference. So it's as if it's got nothing to do with the Twin Towers, but she's referring to the Twin Towers because she's saying this is what they use there. It's a free energy device, but actually they used it for demolition. All right, so I'm going to.
Tesla had a little thing. It was about the size of a shoebox. And he took a couple of his assistants into a high-rise building in New York, and he set the whatever it was on a table, and he turned it on, and the people there said that the box started vibrating and shaking, right? And pretty soon the whole building started, and Tesla had to turn off the box because the whole building was about to go. And this was in 1930s, I think, something like that.
Look, we know. Listen, listen, Jay. I want to wrap it up just because of other bits. It's been nearly 1 hour. I feel like we're only starting to scratch the surface, and I'm sorry for that. I apologize for that. Okay. I would like to take it on for another talk. If it's all right with you, we'll fix another time. By then, I promise to watch the MK Davis that you sent, and I will also watch this one, which I haven't finished, the Dr. Judy Wood. All right, and we'll fix probably for next week. We'll try and fix another time because I find it really interesting, and I think people would like to know more. So yeah, is it all right? I'm really sorry, just because my wife is going away
No,
now,
no
and
problem. No,
right?
I'm so fine. We'll go eat my breakfast.
And I really thought, because we started at 6 o'clock Israel, I thought it's 5 o'clock. I was ready to have
Sorry
more
about
time.
that.
But
Now we know
sorry
it's
for
9
that.
hours.
Yes, now we know. Now we know. Let's fix another time for another talk. And meanwhile, we'll exchange some links. And thank you for your time. Thank you for the information you put here. And I'm sure next time it will be even better.
All right. See you later.
All the best. Jay Weidner, thank you very much. Thank you ever so much. All the
you.
best. God bless. Bye-bye.